Are there ways that we can get off track with reading the letters? We hear them as very direct to us. So what would be some keys to reading them well, and then maybe ways that we can get off track if we're not careful?
That's a really good question because they were written 2,000 years ago. They were written to a different culture. They were written to specific situations in the churches. And I think one of the things that we need to remember is that they were truly letters. They were not theological tractates, theological essays. They were pastoral letters written specifically for situations in the church.
So they're situational.
They're very
situational. We need to
situational.
keep that in mind as we read them.
And then the other side of that is they're written 2,000 years ago to a different culture. So we're at a time when we're in Roman culture and Greek culture was the background of these people, and there's some differences there.
How do we tap into that aspect? I think about what you've done in the Ephesians commentary in explaining some of that backdrop and how rich it becomes when we understand some of the historical cultural backdrops of what Paul is saying in Ephesians. Could you use that as an example?
Yeah, I love getting into the background because as much as we can help the Bible come to life and see its connectedness with our lives in real life, that's really helpful. And looking at the life setting, looking at the background material can help do that. Let me give one example. We all look at Ephesians 1 and realize that it says a lot about the doctrine of predestination, the doctrine of election. And it does. God chose us in Him before the foundation of the world that we should be holy and blameless before Him. But why would Paul say that, and how would people in the first century read that, and given the background that they were from? If we look even to the book of Acts in chapter 19, we realize that there was a group of people in the church, a large group, that came to know Christ from worshiping the goddess Artemis. Well, Artemis had the signs of the zodiac on her chest as a necklace, and that was a symbol to all of her worshipers that she claimed to have power over fate. And people living back then were very worried about their fate, their destiny, that they believed that demonic spirits in the stars controlled their fate. For them to pray the sinner's prayer, come to Christ, join the church, and for Paul to write this letter and say, God chose you before the foundation of the world, it makes the doctrine of election take on such deep personal significance. Wow, I mean, God loved me, God knew me at that time and chose me, and God is more powerful than Artemis or any other god or goddess.
So my life is not controlled by the whims of a pagan goddess.
Not at all, and I think that's part of the message. We still have the same doctrine, but I think it comes to life because we can get into the heads of the people living back then and see how they would have read it and understood it, and we go, wow, this is really powerful stuff.
So context really, again, is very important as we think about reading the letters. I guess both historical context and cultural context, as well as literary context.
Very, very important. All these different spheres of context really help enrich and enliven our understanding of the letters. I still believe anybody can pick up the Bible and read it and gain an understanding for salvation, understand God better, but it seems like we can get to these deeper levels where it just becomes even more exciting and more rich.